Hello and welcome back to another marvellous Bosun Dan video. You've probably noticed that we are once again sandwiched back in my little cave in the back of the garage. For no other reason than it's snowing quite profoundly in good old sunny Staffordshire at the moment. Not that I mind snow, I absolutely do adore snow. It's just I do have a specific video that I want to make that doesn't really need snow to do so. It's just I'll be doing that later in the week, so I figured I'd do something else. As it is such a beautiful snowy cold day in sunny old Staffordshire here, not a lot really going on, so it's a great time for a brew. Yes, it is another paraffin related thing. Yes, it is a stove. I've already got people calling me that lamp guy. Fair enough, which is interesting because I haven't really shown any lamps yet. I've got plenty to show if people want to see lamps. There is hundreds here. Anywho, all that waffle aside, stoves. Ah! Pretty innocuous looking tin, isn't it? It doesn't look too fascinating from the get-go. It's just a tin. What it actually is a really old form of picnic stove. A nice folding carry picnic stove. You could even refer to it as the jet boil of its day. I'll stop waffling about the tin, get the tin open and show you what is in the tin. Inside this marvellous tin of delight, this tin of loveliness we have some stovey appendages. Now guys, the problem with this stove, well, it's not a problem, but for me it's quite annoying. I would like to tell you a lot more about it. I would like to tell you where it is from, what age it is, and all manner of things like that. The problem is I can't tell you anything whatsoever. There is no paperwork in the tin that came with it at all. There is no maker's marks, nothing, not even a serial number. The bottom of the tank is completely just brass with some lines and corrosion marks on it and stuff like that. Nothing. Now I appreciate it, probably it looks quite new at this point. That's just because yesterday I gave it a jolly good old auto soling to make it a bit shiny because it was filthy. So I thought I'd clean it up. So as much as I would like to tell you some more about this thing, I really don't know much about it. I'm pretty sure it is English made, but that's really all I know about it. There's nothing written on the tin. Funnily enough though, I was watching a movie, I think it was probably a Netflix movie about Shackleton and his adventures, and there they were in the middle of the snowy wastelands, pulled out the exact same looking tin and got out this exact same stove and started making themselves a brew. So I'm guessing that it is really rather old, but I don't know any more than that. I'm afraid there isn't a mark on it. There's nothing to state who made it or what. Could be Olympus, could be any number of manufacturers that were producing these about the time, without any details on it. I really can't say. That is one of the most annoying things with a lot of lamps and old appliances like this. They didn't particularly date stamp serial number or anything like that, which is a shame because it's always nice to know how old these things are when you buy them. It's nothing worse than finding one in a second-hand shop or a charity shop or antique shop and they say, oh, classic antique. Turns out it's 2 years old, it's just been badly treated. Not so much of a bother with these things. Anywho, let's get on with the actual stoviness. So this charming little thing, little foldy legs that come out, if I can, still nice and tight they are. Take off the cover caps. This cover cap idea is actually really good because it means you can carry it around in the tin and not have to worry about keeping the tank upright and fuel going everywhere. It simply won't because it's nice and concealed. Then we have the actual burner with this cheeky little wind guard there. You can get your lighting fuel in there and light it. Shut the door. Now it comes with this little spanner that only fits this bolt here. Don't really know why, to be quite fair. Just getting that hand tight is more than enough. Just tight enough so that it seals is all you want. You don't want to overdo it. Get on there. Marvellous. And then the little direct pan on the top that is going to direct the flames. This one's a slightly different style than some of the other ones I have, which actually have a brass bowl full of jet holes around the top of it. This one just sort of blows it into this bowl, which then sends it upwards towards whatever it is you're trying to heat up. Put the little legs on. And you open the little door. The little windshield door can actually make it a little difficult to see how much fuel you're putting in. So what we're going to do is prime it. That's going to get it all nice and hot, and it'll get it hot enough that when you pump the thing up, your paraffin's going to hit the top of there and evaporate. That is a mix of isopropyl alcohol and methylated spirits. There's no need to mix them. You can use either one on their own. I don't have any form of lighting implement on me. That's annoying. Let's put a bit on the tank. Just burn it off. Close my little weather shield door. Lovely. Now what we do is let it heat up. With these things, and I know I've said this before, but just in case anybody hasn't seen the other videos on this sort of stuff, with these things, when you're priming them, don't close your air valve straight away on the fuel tank, because if you do, the heat from the priming flame makes the air in this tank expand, and if that is closed shut, it'll start weeping paraffin out the top of it far too early, and you'll just end up with a big horrible orangey flame mess going on, and there'll be soot everywhere, and it'll just be an absolute pain in the bottom. Particularly with the taily lamps as well. With them, if you do that, if you close your valve and you get that, the tank heats up, it pressurizes and blows bits of fuel out, it just makes your mantle filthy and black, and you'll have to spend ages then flicking the damn thing on and off to clean it. With these, it'll just smoke everywhere if you do that. So wait until you're about to light it before you close your air valve, otherwise it'll just start spitting paraffin. I've lit it several times without the little windshield frame on it, and it's remarkable what a change that actually makes. Where the little slits are in it, it's actually like it's drawing the air through there, and it's making its own little jet system, so it heats up so much better with that little frame on it. And obviously, you know, it's there for help with wind issues and stuff, but... Right, so it looks like my priming fuel is running out now. It's burning out. We'll close the air valve. Pump some pressure into it. It's cute, but because it's the travel version, the pump's tiny, so it's like when you see them cyclists with a puncture at the side of the road and they've got that pump that's about that big, and they're like takes them 6 weeks pump a tyre up. Using this tiny pump, we'll thrash some air in it. So as you can see, we've got a bit of an uneven flame going on. It's not really burning around this side yet. It'll get going, it's going to warm up. As with all of these paraffin pressure things, the hotter it gets, the better it burns, the brighter it gets, the hotter it becomes, it just runs better. You can hear the noise that this one's making. It does sound proper jet oil, doesn't it? so the flame's all even now. It's probably about a minute I've left it running for. You don't need to, I could have put the kettle on it straight away. It's not something you need to do, is to let the flame get all even. As long as it's running and running, if the flame's blue, it's fine. I was just wanted to show it with all its little jets firing away. So, kettle on. This filthy kettle that's been on fire a few times, obviously, that I never, but as long as the inside's clean, who cares? Right, we shall come back to you when that has boiled. Turn this GoPro lamp off so you can see the flame spread. Look at that. A perfectly uniform little flame spread under there. Look. And what a comforting noise on a cold day. This is where people are thinking, damn, that is very sad. Not at all, it's gorgeous, look at that. Still all soot falling off the bottom of that kettle from the candle stove. Well, we don't need you now, little friend. There we go. Just let the air out of the tank until it goes out. So just let that warm up. Let that cool down over there a moment. And there we have it, a nice coffee for the afternoon. So, what are the pros and cons of such a device as this? Well, on the plus side, you're going to get a lot more out of one tank of fuel on that than you are out of a gas can for pretty much any stove that I've ever used that uses gas cans of all different sizes. Plus, if you do need to carry spare fuel, if you've seen my other videos where I talk about fuel cans and carrying gas canisters around with you, you're basically carrying little bombs with you. If they get punctured, it's a real big issue. Whereas paraffin or kerosene is not the most explosively flammable substance on the planet. You're not really in any grave danger. It's lighter than you would expect. It really is not that much heavier than your other stove layouts. And I know that you see adverts for these little gas stoves and it says, oh, they only weigh X amount of grams. That's just the thing itself that either, you know, goes on the bottle or connects to a bottle with its tube. It doesn't tell you about everything else that you're going to be carrying around with the thing. So they're not that much heavier. Plus, another advantage, you just look really cool because it's all brassy and shiny, and who wouldn't like that? Cons, yeah, you've got a waiting period to light the thing. It's like all of these things, it has to be primed to light it, so it's not just flick a flame and you've got an instant running stove. So if you're in a mad rush for a brew, I can't imagine when that's the case, but if you were in a mad rush for a brew, you're gonna have to wait for it to prime and light up. Now these things are very reliable, but like anything, they do still have failures from time to time. The only real issue though that you ever get with these things is seals failing. Now there's only 3 seals on this. There's the one on the main stem where the burner is. There's a rubber seal inside here where the gas release or tank filler is, and there is a seal in there that is a pump washer that's actually made of leather. Those, when they go funny, usually you can actually bring them back to life by just soaking them in oil or in the actual fuel for a little while, and they often come back to life. In an emergency, or if you're out somewhere and a seal fails, if you're skilled with a blade, you can make them out of leather, sacrifice the end of your belt. Or in a real emergency, you can just cut them out of cardboard and soak that in the fuel because it's oily, and that'll get you through for quite a while until you get to be able to replace them properly. So if you know what you're doing with these things, that's really not a big issue. These things will store for a very long time with fuel in them when they're all closed up and everything. You can overdo that though. You can store them for too long and the fuel does go a bit gooey. I had that when I got this out yesterday. It sat in its can for quite a long time now, and what had happened is there's a little air valve at the bottom of this pump that lets air in but doesn't let the fuel back out up the tube, and that had seized shut, and it was just gummy is what was up with it. I ended up making a tool to get down there and get the thing out and stripped it and cleaned it, but in all reality I didn't really need to do that. Really, all I really needed to do was fill that tank with some of the isopropyl alcohol, and if I'd just left it overnight it would have cleaned the goo off and probably just started working on its own anyway. But like anything, there isn't really much on the planet that likes particularly being stored for a hell of a long time without being used. But with most of these paraffin things, they will sit for a good year or so without needing much attention. Quite often with them, anything that's got the pump on it though, you will find your pump's dried out, but like I say, the washer in there is leather. You can usually just soak oil into it or just tip some paraffin down the tube and that'll bring it back to life. I've mentioned isopropyl alcohol for about 8 times in this video. It's become my new favourite all-purpose liquid for, well, everything, but cleaning especially. It really does get rid of gunky stuff without any bother. It's very good at cleaning up little electrical connectors and things like that. Charger plugs, if you can get something small enough to get in there with a bit of isopropyl on it, it'll get all sorts of goo and oil and residue off it. It's an excellent cleaning media, and it really did when I cleaned the air valve yesterday. It just dissolved all the gunk in moments. You should probably be wearing gloves when you're working with isopropyl alcohol, though I imagine that it can be absorbed through the skin, and it is, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a very, very high, strong concentration of industrial alcohol, so I imagine that it would soak into your skin, and you might end up rat-arsed, I don't know. But probably a good idea to wear. It's probably a good idea to wear gloves when you're handling any fuel, isn't it, really? But I mean, I don't so much. I'm always covered in oils and things like that, so I don't really bother, but safety first. But yeah, other than that, I mean, some might say that its size is a bit of a drawback. In its can, it's relatively large. I've seen larger modern stoves out and about. It depends entirely upon what your uses are for such a thing. For me, these are excellent when you're at sort of semi-permanent places and you're going to be there a little while. They're great for keeping running for a long time. I mean, 1 tank of juice on these things will run them for days and days on end. I use them for, it's still for cooking and all sorts, day-to-day use. I use these things all the time, really. History hasn't moved on for me yet because they work, don't they? And if they work, it's a practical thing. And I just think they're charming, and I do quite like the old-fashioned stuff. You've probably noticed that by now. A lot of the modern tech stuff isn't really for me, but I can't really think of any other major drawbacks with it as a device. It's just a good all-rounder. Yes, it is probably just a touch heavier than a modern stove, but you know, you've got to think about, well, where are you taking them anyway? Because there's a lot of modern gas stoves and stuff that if you were just bushcrafting overnight in the woods, you wouldn't take that anyway, would you? Especially as the wide variety of folding stoves that you can just throw handfuls of sticks in to make a brew and stuff, and they fold flat as well. Personally with them, I've never bothered with them either, though. I've usually got a fire go. I can see the advantage of them if you're in a place where you're not allowed to have ground fires, fair enough, but mostly for me, I'd rather just make a fire and chuck my pot on it and boil it like that. But that is about all I've got really to waffle about with this charming little picnic stove, and like I said, I wish I could tell you more about it. Date of manufacture, God only knows on that. It could be anywhere really from late 1800s up to 60s. could potentially, in some areas of the world, these things are still in production. I can only guess that from the state it was in when I got it, that it is quite an aged one. It is, this one I would imagine is probably somewhere around late 50s, 60s, but with it not having a single mark on it, not even a maker's name, I have no way of knowing. And there's obviously no name as in the product name, but if you were trying to find one, get hold of one of these things, if you just put paraffin picnic stove or paraffin pressure stove, a whole wealth of these things are going to pop up for you to look at. And unlike the Tilly lamps where you've got your vaporizer tubes that are quite expensive, the only thing that can really wear out on these, other than your washers, there is a teeny weeny little valve in there that lets a very fine jet of paraffin come out to make it work. If your stove over time starts to develop a yellow flame, and you're not going to get this unless it's really had some use, because they last an absolute eternity. It is just like a tiny little thing that unscrews out the middle, and you can get them. They're nowhere near as expensive as the vaporizers on the Tillys and the stuff like that. And you know, once you've stuck a new one of them in it, I can't remember, I bought some a while ago, it was a couple for £5 or something. They're really very simple things. Other than that, there's not really that many working parts. It's just paraffin, pressurized air, and a teeny weeny hole at the top, and that is all there is to it. So like I say guys, if you're looking for one, just start searching around for paraffin pressure stoves. You'll find them by the picture of what's around. If any of you do manage to find any more information about these on manufacture, I mean, I'm usually pretty good with that, but when you've got nothing to view, and you know, there's none of the original paperwork in this tin, that's obviously been used for lighting a campfire many years ago, I expect. That's probably where that went. But there's nothing, there's no markings on the tin, it doesn't say a word. So the tin's visibly quite old. They don't do that, they don't make them quite like that anymore. So best guess, it's old, it's older than me. But other than that guys, that's all I've got to waffle. I promise you there is a video coming soon where I am not wedged in the back of the garage, honestly. But that's all I've got to say. So get yourselves out there, get yourselves getting some paraffin appliances, get bushcrafting, having fun, be safe, especially when you've got highly flammable chemicals like the isopropyl alcohol or methylated spirits. When you've got stuff like that knocking about, do go easy with that when you're indoors. You don't want to be setting yourselves on fire. But that's all from me, and I will catch you on the next one. I need to do that thing again where I pretend to walk out of a non-existent doorway. Bye.